Good morning, and yes, it is morning. Welcome to Essential Leadership Skills, a discussion with TEDx or TED Talk speakers. Do you want to be a better leader? Do you want to find ways to be far more productive? Join our COO, Glenn Daniels, as he welcomes our guest today, Debbie Hayes, the Quality Queen.
This is a Touchstone Publishers presentation, your trusted source of leadership knowledge.
Good morning, and I'm glad to see that Malcolm finally caught on. It is morning. No matter what time of day you think it is, it's morning, because that's where you're going to find your energy to have a great day. Good morning, and I want to welcome our guest today, and you're going to find out why is Debbie Hayes, the Quality Queen, the Queen of Quality, because of the work that she's doing with individuals and their coaching and how she goes about her job. But we're also going to spend a lot of time talking about her TEDx talk that I think you will find very useful, and we'll have the links and everything for you to get there to listen to it. But good morning, Miss Hayes. Thank you very much for joining us.
You're really welcome.
Fantastic. So let's start off with our very first question. I don't think I told you what the first question is, but here it is.
No, you haven't. Kick off.
All right. So what is unique, powerful, and a need to know about your business, your organization, or yourself? What's unique, powerful that maybe people don't quite understand or they need to know about it to help them get a hold of who and what?
I'm going to answer this from my feedback I've had from people in terms of the thing that I'm told really helps to distinguish me from many other coaches is my real ability to hold somebody and to hold a space. So what I mean by that is to hold them as a complete person, so holistically, and to really listen to them. So I never go in with any pre-prescription, because I very much believe that I really need to understand from that individual about what are the pain points that they're going through. Because only then, when I've understood that, or help them to understand it, because oftentimes what they're talking about might be the symptom, so we really need to get what are the real root causes, then I would answer it from there. And I think in today's busy world, what I found is that most people have a physical capacity to hear, but not many people have the capacity to truly listen to what's both said, not said, the pauses, the emotion. And it's really being able to feel into that so you can truly understand where somebody is. And when people really feel that, the ability to really be understood and to have compassion for where somebody is really powerful.
Let's take that into a little deeper, because when we talk about the ability to not have precondition, not be predisposed to what that person is, that hurts you in shaping your package, I would think. That's what I'm thinking. I would guess if we had the devil's advocate out there, which we will eventually, but they're probably going to be saying, well, I can't develop a package this way if I don't know what they're about. If I just say I'm a blank canvas to bring it in. How do you get around that idea of, okay, what am I going to deliver? What am I going to charge for? How am I going to go about this? How do you get around that?
I just use it to say that I'm really meeting you where you are. I'm not expecting you to come and sit and fall down my sausage machine, as I call it. People don't want to be processed.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with people don't want to be processed. Yes, I totally agree with that.
They don't want to be a process. I just sit in its integrity, and I will say that I will work to give people what they need, rather than perhaps what if you go the other side of that, maybe what other people might want you to have.
Okay. What we're saying that you can always design your packages and what you're going to charge after what they need. Why would you ever go into? Yeah, very good, very good. So let's go on to the second question I want to ask you about, and that's just talking about your journey to your TEDx talk.
Yes.
From the time you conceived that you wanted to do it, to the time you were on stage, maybe the time you walked up on stage, or maybe it was after you walked off stage. Tell us about that journey. Give us an idea of what that felt like for you, what you went through, the experiences, how hard it was or how easy it was. Tell us all about that.
I would describe it as a roller coaster.
Okay.
When I've actually worked with other people who've gone on to do TEDx talks themselves, because they've seen my talk and they'll approach me and I'll go, oh, so you're at the roller coaster point? And they're like, yes. Because I was invited to submit my proposal as what I would want to talk about for a TEDx talk. And even being invited to that interview stage was, wow, this is a real privilege, isn't it, to be, invited there. So that was great. But then there was this feeling of, this is a TEDx talk. So I need to meet this, and I need to deliver something that has the potential to be really impactful globally, because it is a TEDx talk. So with that, there becomes quite a lot of responsibility. And then you go, whoa, if I've got that opportunity, I really need to make sure that, that I deliver something that is going to potentially have that world impact. And so for me, I had to step back into that and think, okay, what am I hugely passionate about? What makes me get on my soapbox?
Yeah, and
and
grow.
speak?
Yep.
What makes me get on my soapbox? And for me, it is around this concept of busyness. And actually, what is the effect of busyness, not just to the people who are being busy at that time, but for me, looking far beyond that in terms of, as in our culture, what is the cost of us really buying into this? We've got to be busy. What is the true consequence of that? And we really need to stop and look at that and take responsibility and say, is that really the legacy that we want to leave? Because it can be quite damaging.
Yeah. So you picked a good subject. Were you nervous delivering that subject?
Not the subject, no, because I'm so passionate about it. That no, I wasn't. I was nervous getting on the stage.
Yes.
I remember before we had these little steps we had to walk up, and as I stood on the first step, I thought, "Oh my God, I've forgotten it all."
Yeah, that happens. That happens.
Because and the day before, and we had the rehearsals, was the first day that we went on stage. And when we went on the stage, the thing that I had no concept of how tricky this would be was the lighting. The lighting was so bright and so hot that when you were stood in that spotlight, I was really quite concerned that I'd be like this little mole that was peeping out of my eyes.
Yep.
It's even something really random like that you just wouldn't necessarily have prepared for, was something you had to go, okay, I have to adjust to that, the brightness of the light. I need to be able to still stand there and come across confidently in what I'm saying. But in terms of the subject, no, because I'm so impassioned that people connect the dots with this, that I think it's really important. And I guess if we're really, for those people that are really busy, you probably don't take the time to stand back and connect those dots.
Yeah. And when we get into the actual TED Talk, I'm going to have you pull those dots and make it very clear how we connect those to everything. Did you have any resistance from friends or family that you found got the way of you developing TED Talk? Or did you find people that you could say, okay, listen to my TED Talk for the 20 minutes 5 times today? Did you have anything like that going on?
I had trusted people that I went to that I knew would give me their honest feedback. And the most honest person in the world was my son.
Oh, yeah. It sounds like he's quite the impressive young man, even at 5. But we'll talk about that too. But
at the time I gave my TED Talk, he would have been about 12. And so when I was doing my practicing of how to deliver this, he was like, "Mum, you sound boring." Because what had happened was, with TED Talks, you have to submit your talk ahead of time. So it has to be approved what you're going to speak about. You need to get your script basically together. And I'd almost got to the point that I'd over-rehearsed it. So I'd lost a little bit of the interjection and the emotion. And so it was learning then to say, okay, I need to step back from this now so I can deliver it fresh again. So yeah, it was quite an interesting process.
Yeah, it really is. And so you were invited and you had your son as your sounding board. Did you
Yeah.
memorize your speech before? Well, you said you had it scripted, but did they require that you memorize it word for word before you went on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Powerful.
It was
Powerful.
a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot. Because it wouldn't be the way that I would normally present either. I wouldn't normally just stand and memorize and speak. I would perhaps do more of an interactive engagement. But obviously with a TEDx talk, it is that talk that you're delivering, and you want to deliver it with the impact that people will sit and listen.
I agree. So let's take apart your talk. Let's really help people really get the value of it.
Yeah.
Now, the premise to me felt like you were saying, okay, if you want to be a better time manager, then listen to my talk. Did I get that? Did I feel that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because the first thing that kind of really stuck with me was this ideal of the importance of valuing yourself. Okay. So can you talk about that from a personal standpoint, and then maybe talk about it from the business world? Let's just talk about it from the business world.
Yeah.
When you're valuing yourself and you're putting value on yourself, how does that work?
It's something I always really encourage my clients to do, to take that holistic approach. Because if we're not valuing ourselves, then we're probably not prioritizing the priorities. Okay. So if we're not prioritizing the priorities, what are we prioritizing? We're probably prioritizing the noise. Because in a business world, what I've discovered with people is there are so many things going on that they react then to the things that are noisy. I teach them to do is to really come back and evaluate what are the real priorities in this business. And you need to be able to value yourself, your talents, your gifts, your time. Because if you don't, you're going to give all of those away to other things, and that's going to leave you very depleted.
Okay. I track with you a little bit. So when you're saying valuing yourself, okay, knowing what you're doing to make the company successful, the skills you had to make the company successful, and deciding, okay, that's more valuable than being on the phone. But also, does that mean valuing the fact that you take care of yourself? You do take your hour-long lunch breaks, maybe off property or off-site, or 30 minutes, whatever it is, meditation time. Are you referring to that as well?
Absolutely. And so I always encourage people to take a holistic approach. And I say, well, you're not cut in two. You don't have a work half and a home half. You have a whole body, and that whole body goes everywhere with you. And I would really encourage people, if they're coming up to busy periods, then you need to do even more self-care, not less. And I've learned this the hard way by not doing that sometimes. Absolutely. And helping, not to prescribe what people do, but to help people themselves to understand what is their way of making this happen. Because what's valuable to me might not be valuable to another person. And so it's helping people connect back to themselves so that they understand this is what's really important to me, and I need to bring this into my mix.
Okay, so what we're going to hear from people then on occasion, and especially I spoke to a few people before I did this for you with us today. One person said, that sounds selfish. How do you respond to that person? I value myself, so he said, well, that's selfish. Shouldn't I be valuing my children and making sure the business is profitable so people have a job?
So it's important that we all have what's called a healthy ego. So if we have a healthy form of ego and we are valuing ourselves to the appropriate level, I don't believe that is selfish. If we have an overinflated sense of ego, where we only doing things for ourselves and nobody else, then yes. So this isn't about only doing things for ourselves, but it's making sure that we are in the mix.
Okay.
And that we are addressing our priorities, which would, for me, valuing myself would be to look at that holistically. And therefore, valuing myself would be my relationship with my child, with my family, friends. Because it's understanding that if I have healthy relationships in work, out of work, that's going to support me, but it's also going to don't value myself. The other thing that I often say to people is, what are we teaching the next generation?
Yeah.
Because they're watching.
Yep.
And do I want to set that example?
You know, I was going to ask you that question a little bit later on in the process, but let me just ask it now since you walked into that. What will the next generation look like if we continue down the path that we're on right now, busy? What will the next generation look like in your estimation?
What I've seen, even in the last 5-10 years, is that as we get deeper and deeper into what I call the information age, then we've got more and more information coming towards us. And that is pulling attention away from our relationships, I believe, into our time being given to all this information, gadgets, etc. Because people are having to try and fit all this in and navigate all that information, what I perceive has happened is that then people are giving less time to people for those important interactions. And therefore, even something as simple as going to the shops has moved away from, hi, how's your day? How are you getting on? To, here's my card and flash.
Right. Yeah.
There's no interaction. So I believe that if we lose those simple interaction points and we become more and more automated, then for the next generation, where are those interactions going to come from outside of their family dynamics? Because those social learning points are being taken away from us in the name of efficiency, because we all feel so busy, want to rush around. Is that what we really want, though? And even last week, I saw something saying that the effect on our older generation of this as well is that the older generations who perhaps enjoy going to the chemist to have a little chat with their pharmacist or being able to go to the bank is actually causing them to become more and more lonely, because where they might have gone to the newsagents for a chat or go to the bank or all these different points that they were able to go to, the interaction being removed.
Okay. Well,
For plastic. So I think we've really got to take a look at, are we giving our time to the right things? Are we making sure that we maintain our emotional intelligence? Because I believe we're losing a little bit of humanity.
okay. So if we're losing a little bit of humanity and because we're losing those interactions, those touch points, that becomes routine and becomes habit for children. How does that affect them? I guess if that's the way they know to do business, to handle business, hey, I got a customer service complaint, I'm going to chat about it, a text message about it, and be done with it. How is that hurting them? And I think that's important that we understand that.
So we look at studies in terms of, if people become, less emotion, like they have less emotional interaction, then they become more isolated. And through that isolation of not having that sense of personal human connection, then over time that can start to affect people's mental well-being, their sense of self-esteem, because it can start to feel like people don't care about them. That obviously then causes that, oh, people aren't caring about me. Then over time that sort of can perpetuate as well into people not feeling, that whole anxiety and things around that as well can start to cause problems in terms of their nerve.
Okay.
Because we don't have the interaction to regulate with other people. So I think it's a real concern that we need to balance these things.
And one thing you said at the very start, when you started answering that question, and is a concern to me, I want to see, where do you think we should begin? This digital addiction that we have. You mentioned that in your TED Talk, and you mentioned it just briefly just now. The gadgets and the gizmos that we have to have. I admit it, I just bought a brand new watch that I told my friends it's a waste of time because it's just a distraction. Where do we begin? And I know you, because of the way you coach, it's hard for you to say definitively, but where do we begin getting a cure for digital addiction?
I think we've got to ask ourselves our question of what is it we're really looking for?
That's a great place to begin. That's one of those writable moments, not a what you call it, tweetable moment. That's a writable moment. What is it that we're looking for?
Because usually when we're picking up one of those devices, it might be that we're looking for information. It might be that we're looking to educate ourselves, but oftentimes looking for connection. But are we really finding connection of its truest nature?
Okay.
I think you can pass a lot of time, but I think the addiction, probably what people are looking for is they're looking for that connection many times in that, but I'm not sure they're really finding it.
So, and that's just part of it. Losing the connection to others is that digital addiction, and this our need to be caught up on all the news, which some people might say, I'm staying connected with what the world's doing, but are you? Also, you told a story that I'd like for you to retell a little bit about, not a story, but a parable maybe, about, and you started here too, going into a retail store and purchasing something. Can you expound upon that and how it helps us lose our connection to people?
What I've noticed is that in the UK here is that more and more supermarkets changing from human-based tills to the, I call it the swipe it tills.
Okay, that's a good name for it too. Yeah. Swipe it and swipe it.
Swipe and go tills. And if you observe what's happening there, it's push the button and off I go. There's no, well, there isn't even an opportunity to speak to a person because it's a machine. But I'm the person that would prefer to wait at the till because I value being able to, there was a couple of things. When my son was younger, I wanted to show him how you can start a conversation with somebody you might not know. Hi, how are you? How's your day been? And it's being able to show that ability of how do you start those conversations? Or it might just be a smile, some interaction.
Yeah.
And my experiences has been some lovely interactions that I've had in those moments. So that's one element. But I think if all those tills are removed, the other bigger piece we've got to look at is that those jobs are also lost.
Yes, the job's also lost, but on the other hand, the costs stay down and we're not spending more.
But then if there's no people there and is the cost to humanity far greater that people have lost jobs and people have lost that ability to have those interactions. What's really more important?
Now, that's a great question. That's a great question. What's the cost to humanity?
Mm.
That's
And
a
that,
great question, yeah.
and that is why I get on my soapbox about this subject, because I think, okay, when there's one till like that, okay, that has a small impact. And if people want to go and process their payment in that way, then I suppose that's that choice. But when I ask people, have they stopped and thought about what is the long-term effects of this? If more and more shops go down that path, is that what we really want? Because also, if those people pay, if they don't have those jobs, where else are they getting those? Where else are they being employed? Are we creating a different problem?
Are we hiding a problem? What's the long range challenges to it? This is why your talk is so important.
Yeah.
And just for those of you who haven't, why we picked this series, because 18 minutes is not enough time to go in depth. You can share your ideal, but it's really not enough time to go in depth. So just this ideal of what's the cost to humanity, that you couldn't have gotten that out in your TED Talk. You might have planned that, but it's hard to get that out in the TED Talk. And I think that's very important for leaders to hear. Okay, am I setting things up? And is it going to hurt us 100 years from now? It may help us tomorrow, but does it hurt us next quarter, next year, or 100 years from now? What's the cost to humanity?
And really, even to that business right now, what's the cost?
Yes.
Because when and a lot of my ex-clients will know this, that the first time I walked into, we have a retail store here called WH Smith's. And I went into WH Smith's when they first introduced this concept of these tills. And the lady said, "We've got a machine now." And I said, "But I don't want to use the machine. I would like to be served."
What does it cost them to ignore that? Yeah.
That was ignored. And if businesses want customers, we need to keep customers happy. And if I don't feel served, I don't feel particularly valued.
Okay.
Well, I didn't feel valued at all, because I was just being sent to this machine, and I was like, no, I don't want to use the machine. Thank you. I would like to be served.
Okay.
Because there was no ability for that person to serve me. So when we talk about customer service, we should be serving our clients. We should be building great relationships with our clients. Does build a great relationship? It might introduce speed, but it doesn't make me engage emotionally with that company whatsoever. And even when people send me to automated calendars, I feel a bit like, oh, I'm being processed, aren't I?
Yeah.
I'm feeling this sausage again. I'm just in the processing machine. I'm just being treated like everybody else. There's no conversation. So for me, it's just really important. And the contrast of that is like my local garage, the most lovely service-based garage, that when, say, my son was younger, and it's, oh, it's your birthday, let me buy you the chocolate, I'll buy you that chocolate bar, you don't have to pay for that, it's your birthday.
Right.
The service element, because you're talking and you've built up that relationship, and they know who we are, we're called by our first names, and we look forward to going, because we know that we're going to have that lovely interaction.
And that all comes from how you manage yourself, what your priorities are, how you manage your time. And if you don't have the priority set up, like we said at the very start, it manages that. If you don't have the time to speak to somebody, the story you told about just going in and not even looking at the person, you hand them a card, your credit card, because you feel you're too busy for that. There's a lot of consequences to operating this way. We've highlighted it. Are there any more that we should be highlighting that are just the consequences of what this is all about?
Yeah, I think it's, it's a really quite sad, I think, where it could lead. And particularly we've experienced across the globe, we've experienced a lot of this isolation. And
Yeah.
so probably more than ever, people need that human interaction. We need the smile.
Hmm.
We need people to go, how are you?
We do need that connection. How are you? Probably a good look in the eye, and it really doesn't take any longer. I know we have Starbucks is a big corporation here,
Yeah.
and I think they missed the boat. I know people are listening, but you missed the boat when you started telling people you don't have to say your name anymore because it takes so much time. You go through the drive-through, they say, "Hey, this is Jill. How can I help you?"
Mm.
And they said they're told we don't have to say that anymore because it takes too much time for us to say our name. Really? That's that connection we're missing.
Exactly. We're going to lose our humanity.
And so it makes me wonder when you tie this together to time management and all these type of things, that half a second of saying your name, how much time does that save you? That half a second of knowing what your priorities are at the start of the day and valuing yourself today, how much time does that save you? Again, I'm wondering about your coaching. I know you start from a blank slate, but is that one of the principles you use in your coaching?
Can you just
Okay, so when you are coaching, is that
Yeah.
where you're trying to get people to understand, know who you are, know what your value is, slow down because it saves you time?
Yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
Because when people really look at what are the true priorities, whether it's in their own life or in the business or the career, then we can address those things and people realize how much noise there is in the life. And if we clear away the noise and we focus and we prioritize the priorities, everything actually gets so much easier. But when we're focused on all the busyness, we're probably not focusing on what's really important.
Okay. Okay. So with all that said, it makes great sense. And so is the statement that you made, and I'd like for you to just share it with the audience and explain it to them a little bit more. Having success without sacrifice. That was a theme. Tell
Yeah.
us a little bit more about that.
Okay. So if we're truly valuing ourselves and we know what we value and we're able to prioritize those things, then for me, we aren't in sacrifice because we're very deliberate about what actions we're taking. Something to distinguish here for people is because people go, oh, no, you have to sacrifice. And I'll go, no. A compromise too far is a sacrifice.
Tell us more.
But if there are always, because obviously this comes back to the point of being, you were asking before about, am I not being selfish? Because yes, we need to make compromises because we all have engagements with other people, other teams, other people in our lives. But we need to make sure that essentially what we're doing, we aren't over compromising to the point that we're in sacrifice. Because at that point, we haven't valued ourselves and our priorities, have we?
No, we haven't. Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping everybody sees where you're going with that because you don't necessarily have to sacrifice anything to be successful.
No.
Other than, I don't know, some things you may, but.
Yeah. So you choose what you might compromise on.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's a compromise, you'll be happy with it. If you've sacrificed, there'll be resentment, in my experience.
Okay, so that's a good definition. Compromise, you're happy. Sacrifice, you're unhappy. That's a great definition. Great definition. I want to ask you about something that you said there also, as we start to run out of time here, but I want to ask you about something you said in there that just struck me, and I think really the people need to hear this. Your Superman cape. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, because I think there's been an expectation that we can do more, do it all. And really, I found myself in this place of trying to be this superwoman. I had my Superman cape on, trying to do it all. And because I got a very nasty wake-up call about this, but what I hadn't done at that time was put myself in the mix. I wasn't valuing myself enough. So because I was trying to do it all, I didn't value myself enough to ask or receive help. Then I was having to be busy.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people will say to me, oh no, I can't even sit down. I'm crazy busy. I've got too much to do. I can't sit down. But can we value ourselves enough as well to ask and receive help?
Okay. So now that Superman cape is what you use to get yourself to remember, get help, ask for help. How do you, the Superman cape I have on, the Superman cape means to slow down. Is that what you meant, to slow down when you throw on your Superman cape? Tell us a little more about what you meant by Superman cape.
Yeah, because I think it's almost this, often we want to be a hero, don't we, to our own children. So we're trying to do so many things. And we don't need to. We don't need to be that superhero. In actual fact, we create much better role models if we're not the superhero.
Okay.
We show our vulnerability.
So it's not being Superman, but it's slowing down.
Mm.
Okay, I like that. I think that's really powerful. I think that's very good.
Yeah.
Even though, again, you only had 18 minutes, but you could have really, that was a very powerful statement I thought that came out of everything. Yeah. The question, I just want to know, what are you doing right now to help people? What are you doing right now?
A lot of what I'm doing right now it comes back to that beginning point of holding people in that space.
Okay.
And really making sure you help people reconnect with where they are. I think a lot of people have got a bit lost.
Okay.
And again, if we can hold people and help them reconnect with what's important to them, then they can move on.
Okay. So your coaching process looks like, I want to find out where you are, so I'm going to hold the space for you, but I'm not going to interject any of my own personal thoughts, my own personal feelings, or anything. I'm just going to hold the space for you. And once we get to that point, we'll say, okay, this is what's important to you. Here's the value that you hold for yourself. And then you go to help them implement that.
And I'm more than happy. I share stories with them. I'll share insights, examples. But there's no point me putting a prescription onto somebody. And I'm more than happy to give them tools to address things. But it's not for me to decide what their priorities are.
Okay. I think that's perfect. How do people get a hold of you?
How do people get hold of me? The best way to get hold of me is just email me. So that's hello@debbiehayes.co.uk. Or you'll often find me over on LinkedIn. That's how we linked together as well, wasn't it, Glenn?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, LinkedIn's a powerful platform.
Yeah.
There's nothing like having that conversation with somebody.
Yeah, and I always invite people to go, let's have that conversation. It's not a sales funnel conversation. Yeah. If I'm the right person for you, fantastic. If I help you in that conversation, fantastic. Because again, it comes back to my point of humanity. And even like today, actually, this morning, I woke up to a beautiful text from somebody saying, Debbie, would you share your address with me? I want to send you something because you helped me believe in myself again. Because I invited somebody who I saw was not in a great place to go, come and have a coffee with me. I think I can help you put them on the right track. So we have to have humanity as well. It's not always about making a sale.
But it usually leads into that. If you're helping people, well, I don't want to say it leads into sales, but if you're helping people, you become more successful. And as a leader, I think a lot of the leaders out there realize that the more people we help, our company helps, the better it's going to be for everybody.
Exactly.
The better it's going to be. Okay, and so I had you. All right. How did this TEDx change your life? your business? How did it change your son's life, your business, delivering this TEDx?
Hmm. I know my son was he was really proud that I'd done that TEDx talk and that I'd shared my concepts. Yeah, he was really proud that we'd turned a not so great experience into something that would help an awful lot of people outside of our own experience.
Yeah, I hesitated to talk about your personal incident there because I think people should go listen to the TED Talk to hear it.
Yeah.
But I think it's just proof positive. Slow down. So I'll tease it like that. Let me just make sure
Yeah.
we put it back up
Yeah.
so everybody can see it. But that's how I'll tease it. You need to go listen to the talk so that you can understand how to go find it. There's the URL and there's the name of the talk. You can search by the talk name. I think that's very helpful, and I leave it just like that. Go listen to it so you can hear the personal story that ties this all together. Why did you decide, by the way, to put that at the end? Just a curiosity, because most people put that type of story at the very start, but you put it yours at the end. Why did you do that way?
Because I wanted to give context,
Okay.
really, to why that was relevant. So I wanted to show that sort of broader picture of what I was seeing currently happening in the world and how then my own experience
Was
I guess
proof positive. Okay. All right. Last question for you. What question should I have asked you that I did not ask you? What question should I have asked you that I missed or that I should have asked you?
Oh, Glenn. What question should you have asked me? Okay, quite often people ask me, why am I called the Queen of Clarity? So you asked me that. Why am I called
Perfect
the
question.
Queen?
Yeah, the Queen of Clarity. And we started out with that. I said we are going to cover that. So perfect.
Yeah, there you go. So that came from my clients. I always say I was like crowned or awarded the name of the Queen of Clarity. Because when people speak to me, I just go, just talk. Don't worry about, it doesn't have to be in perfect sentences. Just talk, share what's going on. And then I just have this ability to be able to see, like I say, to listen and go, I think this is where you're stuck. And people go, how do you know that from that? And I just see it. So that's Queen of Clarity. And then people go, oh, you're just like the Queen of Clarity. And I know that for me, the power of clarity, which again, when we value ourselves and we can be really clear about what we want, what we need to do, then everything gets so much easier. I create a clear path. I give people that clarity of what are those next steps so they can bring things to life for themselves.
See, I've just put in my little 2 cents here. Clarity is your pure fuel, your pure power. And being the Queen of Clarity means you're helping bring that clarity to people in their business world and making a difference all around. I want to thank you very much for taking the time. I know that you're busy, and I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with our audience, me and the audience, and share this powerful message. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Like I said, it's for me, I'm walking my talk. I'm prioritizing that as a priority because it's important to spread that message to people, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you for connecting with us here at Touchstone Publishers. Please join our group Essential Leadership Skills and share your leadership knowledge with us all.